I borrowed actually one of your or Martin's slide. The map in the background is the distribution of the projects that Wageningen University and Research Center are involved in, but I used it to show that we actually have people from all continents participating in this conference. So it is truly an international ESP conference, the majority coming from the Netherlands and Europe in general. In total we have about 20 European countries represented, and as you can see, a lot of people from all over the world. Pim also mentioned that we wanted to make use of this concentration, if you like, of international knowledge to offer a summer school. I put it between brackets because it's not summer anymore, it's autumn. We actually originally planned to have the conference a little bit earlier in the year, but actually we had very nice weather until yesterday. It's now slowly to turn really into autumn, I'm afraid. And about 40% of all the participants are students, mainly PhD students. Unfortunately, we had a maximum capacity, a little bit more than the 25 you mentioned, but still the maximum we could accommodate for the summer school was 38. We are thinking of maybe offering the course again next year. Only the combination with the conference will be very difficult because we will move out of Europe next year. I will explain that later in a bit more detail. So you would have to travel a little bit further if you are not from Europe, of course. Previous conferences, the invitation said that this is the 4th ESP conference. The first one was in Salzau, a beautiful castle near Kiel University, where the focus was on problems, identifying the problems associated with ecosystem services, research and practice. A year later we got together in Lecce in the south of Italy. There the focus was more on the modeling of ecosystem services. And then we went back to Salzau. We liked it all so much, we thought we should do that again there. And then the focus was on solutions. Obviously we didn't find all the solutions, otherwise we wouldn't be together here, I guess. And you can also see that there is kind of a slow increase in the crowd of people that were participating. I don't have a picture of all the people in the first conference, but maybe Felix can tell me how many participated there, because he actually, together with Benjamin and a few other people at Kiel University, started this series of meetings, if you like. And also in 2008 was actually the birth of the partnership. Unfortunately, our friends from Italy, Giovanni and Irene, cannot join us here, but they are still very much involved in the partnership as well. Also in terms of output of scientific publications, there is an enormous explosion almost, if you like. It almost looks like a population graph of articles that have ecosystem services in the title. I borrowed this slide from Marion Potchin, who's also with us here at the conference, and Roy Heinz Young, and to put it into a time frame, at the early stages in the mid-1990s, two famous publications appeared. I assume actually all of you have read those. If not, I surely recommend them, otherwise you cannot be part of the partnership anymore. A publication in Nature by Bob Costanza and a whole bunch of other people, and a book by Gretchen Daly from Stanford University. After that it continued to increase, but it really exploded after the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment was released in 2005. It was a global study between 2000 and 2005 on the impact of biodiversity and ecosystem loss on ecosystem services. If you have not heard of that, that's even worse, I think. There is a website, it's very simple, www.maweb.org, so you can have a look. And then it continued to rise. I don't know where it's going actually, because just last year the TEEP study was released, the economics of ecosystems and biodiversity. Again, a global study initiated by the German government in 2007 after a G8 meeting. They were kind of inspired by the Stern report that calculated the cost of not taking action against climate change. And they figured out it would be cheaper to take action now than to wait, because the cost would be much higher. And then the German government thought we should have a similar report for the loss of biodiversity. You need to invest some money to create an infrastructure to make space for nature. That costs money, but not doing anything against the loss of ecosystem services is even more expensive. And the results of that that project were released last year. So maybe, I don't know if it can go any steeper than this, but it might even go up further. But maybe more important than all the scientific reports is that it is also sinking in policy making more and more. Partly following up from the Millennium Assessment and the TEEP studies, you may have heard of the IPBES, the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. It's not quite by coincidence that it sounds similar to the IPCC, an Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. The idea is to bring there together all the results of the global research being done on ecosystem services and give policy advice. We are in close contact with the people from IPBES. They would have very much liked to have participated in the conference, but they organized a very important starting conference exactly in this same week. They tried to avoid it, but it was impossible, but they did agree to have a video appearance at our conference on Friday morning to tell us the latest outcome of the meeting that they are having at this moment in Nairobi. Also, national governments are picking up the message more and more. Just a few months ago, I came across this report to the President of the United States. It has in the title Environmental Capital, but if you read it, it's full with text on ecosystem services and the need to better understand how ecosystems are providing these services. Actually, also in the EU, it's becoming an official directive to the national governments to start up these kind of national TEEP studies, and there is a special session on that topic during this conference. Finally, the general public, they are basically in a way all behind this. They vote every 4 or 5 years, depending on your country, for a new government, and they should support these kind of activities. And also in newspapers, and this is a journal in Germany, it is being more and more recognized. I have to be careful not to take too many side steps. There is a quite nice story I could tell about this, about some former students of mine who are asking a question like this about ecosystem services to the general public, but I have to move on. I don't have a watch actually. I don't see a clock here. 6 minutes. Yeah, I'm chairing this session, so I should warn myself, but if you don't have a watch, that's kind of difficult. Well, I can be short about this. I already mentioned that the partnership is growing real fast. We have now 50 institutional members and more than 200 individual members, and you can keep track of what we are doing on our website, www.es/partnership. We wanted to have esp.org or esp.com or esp.eu, but all the ESPs were taken. I don't know, it seems quite a popular abbreviation. It's a very diverse community of people that we try to join in the partnership to provide a platform for scientists, for policymakers, for NGOs to talk about what needs to be done to bring the science into practice, if you like. And I think, and I hope that our underlying kind of passion, if you like, is the incredible diversity and beauty of nature, and the fact that we are engaged in this kind of research. Actually, maybe in a way it should not be necessary to understand what all those ecosystems are doing for us in terms of services is of course of a big scientific interest. Out of curiosity, it is very, very interesting to study how ecosystems are providing all those services, but the next step, which is to quantify the importance of those ecosystem services in ecological terms, but also cultural terms, and especially economic terms. The last part is still quite a bit of a debate. Some people think nature is priceless, and actually I agree with that statement. I think it shouldn't be necessary to quantify the monetary value of ecosystems to the economy, which is something else than putting a price on it, by the way. Price and value are two quite different things, but I'm sure most of you know that, and there will be sessions on that topic later. But my motive as an ecologist actually is this picture. We can say it's priceless and we should respect it in its own right, but you all know that everyday practice is very different, and we're still losing ecosystems as we are speaking at this conference and the species with it, which is causing an enormous amount of damage not only ecologically but also economically. And an article in Science calculated that we are losing between 2 and 5% of GDP, or spending, if you like, 2 to 5% of GDP on damage cost, replacement cost, and restoration cost. And if we don't change our ways, that will only get worse. If you look back, then we have built up a huge natural capital debt, if you like, that we should be paying back somehow by investing in nature. We should stop seeing spending on nature as a cost, actually. It's an investment. Just like in human infrastructure, if you build a new road or a new industrial park, that's money spent on productivity, and ecosystems are doing a lot for us as well. That change in mindset might help also. See it as an investment and not as a cost. Just at the beginning of this TEEP study, the TEEP study leader was Pavan Sukhdev, a banker from the Deutsche Bank. And he made this maybe surprising statement from a banker, even just before the financial crisis broke out. I hope that while I was speaking you have been able to read it, but he is quite critical of the current way we are doing economics. Again, the website, like the MA web, they have also a simple website called teepweb.org. So lots to talk about. This is just kind of a little warming up, I guess, of the issues we should be talking about. The ecosystem services, how are they provided by ecosystems? What is their value? How can you use that in planning and management? And we have 7 keynotes touching of all these issues. They are actually closely linked to the 6 workshops. Maybe you've seen that in the program, that there is a connection between the presentations on especially tomorrow and Wednesday and the workshops. In total we have, I think, about 177 papers distributed over those 6 workshops. 7 special sessions, partly suggested by yourself, and we have about 75 posters that we will be distributing throughout the conference hall. On Friday we want to kind of sit back a little bit and reflect on what we have been discussing, and do that together with 8 stakeholders from different perspectives, policymakers, NGOs, the business community, and see what needs to be done still in terms of making ecosystem services work for a more sustainable world. Then we finished the conference with a presentation that has kind of a refreshing look, I think, on economics and how it is both part of the problem but could also be part of the solution. Dave Batker, director of the Institute of Earth Economics in the United States. And I don't know quite what he will be talking about, but I'm quite sure it will be entertaining. But it is still a long way in the future. That will be Friday afternoon. Today we start with 3 keynotes, kind of giving a broader overview of the state of the art and the challenges that we are still facing in terms of the science, practice and policy in relation to ecosystem services. In order to keep to the time, there will be no time for questions after the presentations, but there will be a panel session later in the morning to ask questions. You're watching, looking on your watch. I have to finish, but I'm finished. This is my last slide. I would like to ask Sander, Alexander, Leon, Thuyen and Katalin to briefly come to the stage so you can place faces behind the people that have been very much involved and active in getting you all here in this conference hall, maybe a little bit higher. So I want to thank them now already for doing all this hard work. They will get a more formal thank you towards the end of the conference when everything went well. If not, I don't know what we will be doing. Okay. I didn't know they were lost, but that is good to hear that they were found. And maybe what made that job even more difficult is that by coincidence, nobody's fault, but we had to move the whole institute last week. On Friday, 12 o'clock, we had to be out of our offices. So that down on the right-hand side corner is the picture of my office Friday afternoon. So we went into an emergency location over the weekend to get everything done. But I think we got it all done just in time. Thank you very much. And I would like to... Sandra just told me that there are a few people standing, but there are still enough chairs. So if you want to sit, you would have to look for a free chair. There should be enough chairs. Maybe not in the back, but in the front here. I said it was my last slide, but I have one more to introduce our next speaker. Bob Costanza. I suppose almost all of you know him, at least by name. He is one of the founding fathers of the Society for Ecological Economics, starting to think about this need to have the dialogue between ecology and economics already many years ago. I just thought that this would be a nice slide to put his achievements into perspective. I don't know quite how you call this. Ida made this. It's called the Gapminder program, I think. She screened the internet for authors that had more than 5 papers with ecosystem services in the title. And then it was plotted against the H index, citations, and the number of co-authors. And you may guess what blob is Bob. All the way up in the right-hand corner with the highest number of papers, co-authors, citations, and H index. So I guess, Bob, I don't need to say anything more except that next to all the papers that you are writing and speeches that you give, you're also director of the Institute for Sustainable Solutions and professor of sustainability at Portland State University in the United States. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dolf.